Welcome to Africa 54. Here's what's coming up. Some critics of former U.S. President Donald Trump shower him with praises on the second night of the U.S. Republican Party convention. We'll have a report from Milwaukee. A Nigerian engineer and innovator eyes the African market with his unique Made in Nigeria car. And Nigerians shine in robotics competitions that allow students to unleash creativity and explore different STEM concepts. All this and much more coming up on today's Africa 54. We begin in U.S. state of Wisconsin, where the Republican Party put some of Donald Trump's intra-party former foes briefly back in the spotlight on the second night of its nominating convention. VOA's chief national correspondent Steve Herman was on the convention floor Tuesday and has details from Milwaukee.
President Donald J. Trump.
The official theme of Day 2 of the Republican National Convention, Make America Safe Again. It could have been Republicans all play nice again. Donald Trump's former foes in this year's party primary took turns issuing messages of unity.
If you want to seal the border, vote Trump. If you want to restore law and order in this country, vote Trump.
Besides entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy, former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley also put aside her previous policy differences with the former president.
I'll start by making one thing perfectly clear. Donald Trump has my strong endorsement.
During this year's primary battle, Haley was Trump's last challenger. The U.S. ambassador to the United Nations during Trump's administration had attacked her former boss as unfit and unelectable. Delegates from Haley's home state, such as Jerry McDaniel and Robin Hawley, prefer to look ahead, not back.
It doesn't matter who ran against him before. President Trump is bringing them all in together, and that's what we want to see.
Do you think Governor Haley has her heart totally into this Trump 2024 campaign now against President Biden?
I think if she is a person that I think that she might be, because I don't know her, I think that she's got some forgiveness and some motivation to move on and to keep us together and to help our country.
Other former Trump opponents from this year's primary and those from the past addressing the convention Tuesday included Senator Ted Cruz of Texas, Marco Rubio of Florida, former Housing Secretary Ben Carson, and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis.
My fellow Republicans, let's send Joe Biden back to his basement and let's send Donald Trump back to the White House.
Some of the former and future presidential hopefuls praising Trump here tonight might be seeking to court his favor and that of the delegates 4 years from now, as a Republican victory at the top of the ticket in November would give Trump his second and final term. Steve Herman, VOA News, at the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee.
For more from the Republican National Convention, VOA's Carol Van Dam Frog joins us live from Milwaukee. Carol, tell us what stands out in this year's Republican Convention.
Well, it's just been a whirlwind of events, as you know, since Saturday with that attempted assassination of the former president in Pennsylvania. That kind of changed the mood. And it also, I think, really electrified the delegates here and the speakers and the former presidential candidates to all get under one big tent and try to be united. However, I think it's important to point out that when we listened to Nikki Haley last night, the former UN ambassador, she quite pointedly said, even if you're not 100% behind Donald Trump, meaning his policies and some of the more aggressive, ambitious things that he has said about the things that he would change on this country, she said, you have to vote for Donald Trump. So I think that you know, what's it's coming down to now for her, for Ron DeSantis, for some of the other former foes, Senator Ted Cruz from Texas, is, you know, they've said some really biting things about each other when they were running in the primary. But now it has to be, you know, all under one party. We have to make the Republican Party in the Oval Office come November, or win in the November election, because the stakes are too high in their view with President Joe Biden.
Carol, what are the expectations now tomorrow when Trump's pick, the vice president now running with Trump, DJ Vance, takes the stage at the convention?
Yeah, and it's interesting to note too, Esther, by the way, that J.D. Vance and former President Trump have been in the convention floor for every night of this so far this week, and that's not always the case with these national conventions, either on the Democratic side or the Republican side. But he is there, and listening to all these tributes to him, you know, right from the stage. And you're going to hear that again tonight from J.D. Vance, who's going to be in the spotlight, the main speaker, the freshman Republican senator from Ohio, who was Donald Trump's pick to be vice president just 2 days ago.
Right, Carol, thank you so much for your reporting. VOA's Carol Van Dam Fork reporting live from the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee. President Joe Biden addressed black supporters in the battleground state of Nevada Tuesday. It was his first campaign appearance since the assassination attempt on his Republican rival, former President Donald Trump. He linked the attack on Trump to racial and gun violence, imploring Americans to condemn violence in any form. White House Bureau Chief Patsy Widakuswara has this report.
Striking the right note to win an election after an assassination attempt on a rival? That's the challenge facing U.S. President Joe Biden.
We all have a responsibility to lower the temperature and condemn violence in any form.
Speaking in front of black voters in Las Vegas, Nevada, Tuesday, he did that by linking the shooting that injured Donald Trump in his Pennsylvania rally Saturday with violence perpetrated against African Americans, including George Floyd, who was killed by a white police officer in 2020. And to victims of gun violence, calling to reenact a U.S. ban on assault weapons that expired in 2004.
The AR-15 was used in the shooting of Donald Trump, just as it was an assault weapon that killed so many others, including children. It's time to outlaw them. I did it once and I will do it again.
The shooting inflicted only a minor injury to Donald Trump. The former president and Republican nominee arrived with a bandaged right ear Monday at his party's national convention in Milwaukee to a raucous welcome. For Biden, whose weak debate performance last month triggered questions about his age and mental acuity, the assassination attempt on his rival adds an additional layer of complication.
You've got to, on the one hand, allay concerns about his fitness for office. You've got to create separation from the opposition, the Republican Party, which is enjoying a moment of ascendance. And you've got to call for unity and to disavow political violence, and to do all those three things simultaneously is extraordinarily difficult for anybody.
Currently, Biden lags behind Trump nationally and in various swing states, including Nevada. Aiming to win black support, Biden contrasted his policies with his rivals. He mocked the term black jobs that Trump often uses.
Folks, I know what a black job is. It's the Vice President of the United States.
Biden repeated calls for Americans to treat each other not as enemies. Trump, uncharacteristically subdued after the attempt on his life, has also called for unity. But many expect the calm to last only temporarily, with campaigning set to intensify following the party's political conventions. Patsy Widakuswara, VOA News, Washington.
To East Africa now, where anti-government protests rocked Kenya on Tuesday, with demonstrators from more than 22 counties out of 47 participating. The protests, which began last month, led by Gen Z Kenyans, made fresh demands for President William Ruto to step down despite his action to withdraw the high tax hikes that had infuriated the youth alongside high-level corruption in the government. For more on the continued demonstrations, I'm joined live via Skype from Nairobi by Macharia Munene, a professor of history and international relations at the United States University in Nairobi. Professor Munene, thank you for joining us. It seems there is no end in sight to the demonstrations. What options does President Ruto have to calm the youth and stabilize the country?
Well, he needs to be very careful. He needs to appoint his cabinet, and it should be people of credibility, not what he had before. He should stop chest thumping and look more reconciliatory than he has appeared. The behavior yesterday of the police and some other people, including some activity today, are not very encouraging. And so the Gen Z feel encouraged and then empowered to continue because they can deliver what no politician can. So it is a question of the president reassessing himself before anything else.
Right. They're also calling on the president to step down, despite the fact that President Ruto rejected the finance bill and he has promised to make reforms. He has cleaned up the cabinet. He actually fired the whole lot. So what would be the implications of the president stepping down and having that leadership vacuum in the country?
Well, if he steps down, at least there is a deputy president to take over. And that is one of the arguments being put forward as to why he should not step down, because the deputy president, to some people, he is not acceptable. So then even the call for the stepping down is a long-term project where they are talking about registering in big numbers. These are people who want to operate within the law, within the constitution and the spirit of the national anthem. And so they are talking about registering in big numbers to ensure that he gets out in 2027 anyway, if he doesn't get out earlier than that. But they think they can put a lot of pressure for him to think of stepping aside.
Professor, very quickly, how
that appears to be credible, and it's coming from the politicians who are envious and jealous of the Gen Z's ability to mobilize such a force, because politicians have been trying without success. Now they have these young people who claim to be to have no political base, to be fearless, and to be tribeless, and they are delivering. And so what we saw were goons being hired to come and discredit the Gen Zs. That has been the purpose. As to the claim that some foreign forces are sponsoring this movement, they seem to be far-fetched. But since at one time they claimed the Russians are doing it, and then now somebody is claiming that the Americans are doing it, so it's a funny way of bringing the two forces together.
Professor, right. Professor, we're going to have to leave it there for time here. Professor Munene, Macharia Munene, is a professor of history and international relations at the United States University in Nairobi, Kenya. German Foreign Affairs Minister Annalena Baerbock has said her country can no longer cooperate militarily with Niger because of a lack of trust in relations with the West African country's military regime. Baerbock was speaking during a joint press conference with Ivory Coast President Alassane Ouattara.
At the same time, we have not stopped humanitarian and because the people of Niger are not responsible for what happened. We have seen that with a view towards the Russian role in Mali and now also in Niger. We weren't able to continue the supporting role that we had taken on before in the area of security, in the field of policing and also training within the MINUSMA UN mission, because the trust that existed before was no longer there.
At the end of May, Germany and Niger reached an interim agreement allowing the German military to continue operating its air base in the capital Niamey until the end of August. But negotiations to extend that agreement broke down, notably because the base's personnel would no longer benefit from immunity from prosecution. Nigeria, a new era is emerging in the automotive industry with groundbreaking innovations. An indigenous engineer is aiming to lead the Nigerian and African markets with his unique Made in Nigeria car, proving that innovation knows no bounds. Emeka Gibson reports from Abuja.
From sketch to prototype, from model to chassis, Jerry Mallo's car showcases his homegrown creativity and talent. After studying automotive engineering in London, Mallock returned to his native Nigeria in 2017 to chase his boyhood dream of becoming a leading car manufacturer.
There's that need that we produce what we consume. When we look at the much available natural resources we have in Nigeria and beyond, it becomes a motivation that we want to see how we could add values to these raw materials, make them convert them into ready-to-use end products. So there's almost no vehicle components that we don't have the raw materials within Nigeria or within Africa.
Jerry is working on 2 cars at the moment, designed in 2017 and 2020 respectively. Sports cars Benny Puris and Stallion prove concept and workability and unique features that are built to beat the road and power infrastructure issue in Africa.
It's a vehicle designed for the African environment. At sport mode, you have just about 3 inches ground clearance, and with a press of a button from your dashboard, it switches to the off-road mode, where you have about 14 inches ground clearance. We also designed inbuilt the vehicles that it stores power that is capable of powering your house.
Nigeria's first Made in Nigeria car was the IVM 6490A, launched in 2014 by Nigeria car maker Innocent Motors. As an emerging economist, Nigeria automotive industry rely heavily on import. Abuja-based development economist Awa Mustafa agree on the huge economic potential of homegrown brands.
If you have an automobile industry in Nigeria, it's going to be an opportunity to harness materials, within the country. That means there's going to be a value addition in that industrial chain. Jobs are going to be created. While jobs are being created, skills are also going to be upgraded. In fact, we are also going to have opportunities for new skills.
The Global Innovation Index ranks countries like Nigeria lower in innovation. Joshua Samuel, an automobile expert, uncovered the reason, saying poor investment in technology is to be blamed. He highlighted the need to revamp projects like Ajokuta steel industry to boost supply of raw materials to manufacturers like Jerry Mallock.
If Ajakuta start working, just imagine, irons are wonderfully. You get irons that you can just mold it to your own specification because it's your country. You see, when you have robust industries in the country, as automobile, what do I need an old car for?
Mallock work demonstrates what can be achieved with local resources and determination, but it hasn't been easy. The project faced challenges such as limited research resources and funding. Mallock launched the Benny Stallion in February 2024 and await funds to roll out the product to the market. Despite these obstacles, Mallock and his team of 50 young innovators believe their journey is about more than just building cars. It's about creating a future where Nigerian engineering capabilities can thrive and lead. Gibson Emeka, VOA News, Abuja, Nigeria.
Still to come, fostering teamwork and 21st century communication skills through robotics. We'll be right back.
On the next Straight Talk Africa, it is time for political national conventions in America, where parties will formally announce their 2024 presidential candidates. The Republican National Convention is taking place this week in Milwaukee in the state of Wisconsin. Join me, Vincent McCory, on the next edition of Straight Talk Africa as we take a closer look at America's political conventions, how they have evolved since they began in the 1830s, and what they can potentially achieve ahead of the November election.
The lack of access to menstrual hygiene products due to high cost has had a major impact on millions of women and girls. But despite these challenges, things are changing, making it possible for girls to go to school and women remain employed. On the next episode of Our Voices, we'll take a closer look at initiatives that have been launched in sub-Saharan African countries to promote greater access to sanitary pads and their implications for the future of women and girls. Join the conversation each week right here on Our Voices.
In other news, deforestation has dramatically escalated in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. A UN report is warning that vast swaths of virgin forest have been lost in the Virunga National Park, one of the most biodiverse territories on the continent. According to the UN report, armed actors on both sides have profited off the production or trade in wood and planks in the areas they control. And Sierra Leone has one of the highest deforestation rates in the world, according to the Environmental Performance Index put together by Yale and Columbia universities. The scars of land excavation are evident along patrol routes. Rangers say the mining was causing trees to be uprooted, which were then being exploited by illegal loggers. Robotics competitions are not just events, but invaluable learning processes that foster teamwork and 21st century communication and collaboration skills. These competitions allow students to unleash their creativity, tackle challenges, and collaborate effectively, all while exploring different STEM concepts. Our technology correspondent Paul Ndiho has more.
Thanks, Esther, and welcome back. This year, Glistin International Academy from Abuja, Nigeria, proudly represented the country at the 2024 VEX Robotics World Championships in Dallas, Texas. The competition featured 24,000 students from more than 60 countries. I spoke to Abba Saidu, the executive director of Glistin International Academy, who led the robotics team.
We build in technology into it, so very much educational technology is key to what we do at Glistin International Academy here in Abuja. We have two branches, the primary and secondary, here in Abuja, and our kids have been immersed in a lot of emerging technologies from the get-go, and have been involved in spearheading and leading the technical technology deployment and development around the school, from planning to actually making things happen and making sure our young ones have the requisite knowledge and skills for the next for the future workspace.
But when I've talked to people who know about you, they say you are one of the few people who is trying to build an army of young tech entrepreneurs, young tech enthusiasts, people who want to turn their careers around by taking on new opportunities in technology. How do you get to that point where you are trying to empower young ones?
It's quite surprising that people are saying I'm trying to build an army of young tech ones, but I think I saw the opportunity that we could just make the difference. Being a younger person, knowing what's happening around the world, and knowing what's happening with the technological spaces, especially with the emergence of new technologies. We just saw the opportunity, and we kind of joined in the team from the get-go when it started. Whenever you look at the developed world and here in Africa, you see so much difference, and you think you want to think that you could do small differences, no matter what, even if they're baby steps. So it's kind of the kind of principles that we try to adopt, because you can't really change people at the get-go, but the best way is to take those baby steps I mentioned. And I think that's what kind of got me going.
When we talk about emerging technologies, when we talk about these new skills that are being given to these young people, what are we talking about?
We're talking about new technologies that we see that are making waves around the world, and things like blockchain, AI is a hot topic. Robotics education, is kind of the key focus of what we do. We're quite strong with robotics education at our school because we've had successes and we've seen the possibilities, and our students also growing in leaps and bounds into this kind of technologies, STEM-based courses. So we make sure that we just empower them in all those things.
Your students recently competed at one of the biggest robotic competitions in the world. It took place in Dallas, Texas. Tell us more. What did you and your students do there?
We happen to represent Nigeria at the world's largest robotics competition held at Dallas. Last year, we happened to be there too, or we were opportune to be there, and also this year, we happened to be there. So it was kind of a series of processes that you go into from you registering for the competitions and getting the kits. Getting trainings and also passing inspections. We're the first school to represent Nigeria in the world's largest robotics event, and we happen to have our kids happen to, and ourselves too. We happen to got a lot of experience because it's a wonderful experience where you see diversity of people all around the world. Especially from the opening ceremony where you have the parades of nations, and I can't better describe it, but to say it's like the Olympics. When you watch the Olympics parades, so that kind of goosebumps feeling, that kind of inspirational. So it's a wonderful. I mean, I don't have words really to describe, but it's a life-changing experience, especially. For people that really want development to happen in the tech industry or in the robotics industry, because it opened doors for a lot of opportunities, networking, collaborations, problem solving. You all see them there, and the facets that it includes. So it's a really life-changing experience.
Is a tech reporter. Back to you, Esther.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you very much, viewers, for joining us today. We'll see you back here tomorrow.